Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name's Shadowwraith and today I'm going to be going over my 3 pointers of how to incorporate mind games, or shadow games as I call them, into your Warhammer 40k games and how they will help you to achieve victory on the tabletop. Now, these are little hints that I use or I know other people to use in competitive games and some of them friendly games depending, but hey, who knows. And they seem to work, and they have helped me win my games, which is why they're in my list. Let me know if you have any suggestions of similar mind games that I did not cover, but I've picked my top 3 favourite that I play. Now, without further ado, into the list we go. In my number 3 slot, I have got, well, there's no particular order, but dictating the battle. Now, how do you dictate the battle? Well, it's quite simple, really. It's all about getting your opponent to react to something you're doing. Obviously, it's much easier if you get turn 1, because you start dictating the battle from the get-go. But turn 2, the opponent might throw things at you that might throw this plan into, you know, could ruin it a little bit. But that does not mean you can't start dictating the battle from turn 3 or turn 2 or whatever. But all that means is options. You give them options on how to react to what you've just done. So a very simple way of doing it is, well, threat saturation. Basically, you've got 2 big Death Star units. So, for an example, we've got Mortarion running around, whilst on the other flank you have got a blob of 15, whatever, Plague Marines with their dual knives, or bolt guns, whatever you prefer. We're going to go with the dual knives for this example. Both are scary. Okay, Mortarion can do some serious damage in combat. He's a psyker. His shooting's okay, but it's mainly the combat and psychic that you're worried about. Plague Marines, very good in combat. If you know any of my previous videos, you know what you can do with Plague Marines. So, they've got 3 options. Okay? Well, kind of 2 basically. So the 2 options they've got, first 2 are to focus Mortarion down or to focus the Plague Marines down. 1, 2. If they do, the worst case scenario is they take down Mortarion or they wipe your Plague Marine squad off the table. If they do that, that's fine, because you've got an unscathed unit, or Death Star, that's about to crash into their lines and they have to deal with that. Not very good. The third option they got is to spread their fire out. So they can maybe chip a few wounds off Mortarion, or they can try, obviously, to take them both down, but in reality, they're probably just going to hurt those 2 units a little bit more. But in which case, at some point, both those units are going to get into their lines and they're going to have to deal with them in combat, which will not be good for them. That's pretty much it. I mean, the best thing you can possibly do, in my opinion, is to put Mortarion up in space, pay the 3 CP or whatever it is, and have your Plague Marines shielded by something like Poxwalkers, because Poxwalkers, they're really annoying because they've got the 5-up Disgusting Resilient. Stick them to screen in front of them, and you can stick Cloud of Flies on your Marines, and that means they have to shoot the Poxwalkers. So they've got a choice of shooting 3 Poxwalkers, and if you stick 20 or 40 in front of these Plague Marines, it's going to take a lot of the firepower to deal with it. So now they're wasting their firepower on that Death Star. Within the back of their mind, they know you've got another Death Star that's ready to jump down, so they don't really want to give you room to drop him down. But you get the idea. They've got choices, and each one of them you know how to react to, pretty much. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The next point I've got is traps. Okay, traps are my favourite. The way I run a trap is pretty simple. I'll give you an example of when I actually did it at an event. What happened was, obviously I was playing Death Guard, because Death Guard, they're my boys. But I left an objective close to their right flank open. Okay, I purposely did not go for them in my turn of movement. I didn't push towards that objective too far, because I'd noticed he had a unit of whatever it was, I don't know, Space Marines, stood near towards his deployment area, but they were enraged to try and grab that objective. And that's a pretty obvious play, and I played it off as I'd just forgotten to move the Plague Marines, or I didn't want to move them for whatever reason. But I played it off as it was a mini mistake. But not a big deal. Knowing that there was a very good chance that he would go and grab that objective. Okay? Which then set me up next turn for my Blightlord Terminators to drop exactly where those Space Marines had been, because they were actually blocking me from deep striking down into that spot, which means I was closer to their lines, I was close to that objective on 2 fronts, and I could take him off him next turn, and he's already lost that flank of the battlefield. The other trap that I managed to pull off, not as, easy to get away with, but I had a unit of Plague Marines, about 7 of them, on a centre objective, okay? Opposite them, not too far away, was a squad of Custodian Guard or whatever. Either side of these guys, so, a good 12 inches away though, so it looked like a fair distance, were some scary things. So I had my drones with their flesh mowers on one side, and the other side I had blight haulers and, the typical stuff. But he could see that these Plague Marines were sat on an objective, and he could maybe grab them off me. Okay? And I don't know if he was unfamiliar with Death Guard. If he had asked, I would have told him how tough they are. But he decided, yep, 5 of these can easily take those Plague Marines. And usually, they absolutely could. But in my head, I thought, the maths is looking pretty good for these guys to stick about. Okay? So I purposely left them there, because I wanted to take out this squad of Custodian Guard. So it comes to his turn, he charges in. No problems, get straight in. Okay? What he didn't realise is that I had a Plague Surgeon not too far away from them, okay, which heroically intervened closer to that combat, putting those Death Guard Plague Marines within his aura of 6 inches, because I put the Fulgrim's Helm on him. And he allows you to re-roll 1s and 2s, because I used him from the Plague Company. Mortarian's Chosen Sons, which I absolutely love. Okay, one of my favourites. Because, I love Plague Belchers and Plague Spurt Gauntlets and Plague Spewers, and it works with that, and plus you get this re-roll 1s and 2s for your Plague Surgeon. He now had to try and chew through these Plague Marines, who were already toughness 5, okay, but 3 up save, pretty much gone up to a 6 up save against his lovely little scythes, or whatever they are. They're halberds, Guardian Spears, that's what they're called. And then I had 4+ disgusting resilient saves, okay, re-rolling 1s and 2s, so only 3s were a proper fail, 100% fail. And I did get lucky enough to keep 2 of them alive, and I know that's quite a lot of points to lose, but he had lost more points, because in the following turn he didn't have the objective quite, and I descended upon him with my flanks straight away. Okay, it was pretty nice. Withdraw, everything firing into them, and then charge with everything else. And I had the objectives, and I took down 5 Custodian Guards. Happy days. But it's all about making your opponent think that you have made the mistake. I've left them exposed, so I can take advantage of that. I've done this wrong, or I've forgotten to do this. And if you're in a competitive tournament scene, they probably won't remind you haven't moved. They won't say, sorry mate, are you going to move those Plague Marines? Unless you get a really sound guy, like me, because I probably would try and remind you. But not a lot of people aren't like that. They're the far opposite, which is why I don't mind playing these on them. Friendly games, I don't so much. But the last one is a bit cheesy, okay? I will warn you now. And I've only done it to people I think they're taking the game too seriously. I like to play for fun. I've always played Death Guard, even before they were really awesome. They're cool, okay? Super duper cool. But I call this one, it's quite simple, ignorance, okay? And it's not being ignorant of your own faction. Because when you go to a tournament, you're expected to know the army you're running. So you're not ignorant on how your faction runs. But play ignorance on their faction. Pretend you don't know what their faction does fully. You're very new. I have never played against Harlequins before. I've never played against Custodies before. Whatever, okay? Because if you get that kind of guy who takes it too seriously, they won't tell you. They probably won't tell you. They'll be like, oh yeah, they're pretty good. 2-up arm save, yeah, invuln, sweet. Custodies are awesome. That's pretty much the most you'll get from them. Obviously, if you get a sound gamer who's like, oh no, I'll talk you through it, mate. I'll tell you exactly how it goes. Then in which case you don't use this. You're like, oh, sweet. Okay. Oh yeah, it's coming back to me. Yeah, so nice and simple. But what this does, if you get a person that doesn't tell you, is it changes their mindset. Basically, first of all, they'll think you're pretty new to the game because you don't know what, I don't know, Gene Stealer Cult. We'll go with Gene Stealer Cult. You don't know what Gene Stealer Cult bikers do. Oh, easy. Okay. They'll think, I've got this. Okay. They'll become very confident. Okay. Overly confident sometimes because they think they can play their tricks on you because you don't know what this faction does, so I can play these tricks. So they become overconfident. Overconfidence puts them in a false sense of security. And that's when mistakes start to happen. Okay. Little mistakes where they don't think they need to take you as seriously sometimes. And anything like that can give you a competitive edge. This is, yeah, well, it works for me anyway when I have done it. And like I said, it's a little bit cheesy, but it does work. So, and especially if it's against that guy, you don't care and you want to win. But yeah, so they get overconfident. And Gene Stealer Cults, you can just pretend. I don't know much about Gene Stealer Cults. Never fought them before. Oh, okay. Well, they deploy weirdly. Okay, cool. And then I can do something that might tempt them to do something that their army can do that they don't think I know they can do. If you're up to date with what I've just said there, if you know what I'm saying. Basically, example being Chaos Lord. Okay, I've left a nice little 5-inch gap, or slightly more, where he could drop his bikers, use his stratagem to get within 3 inches of him, and explode him with mining charges. Or yeah. So he might take that bait. If he takes that bait, I have then got, and I know for a full fact, that he's within range of all these melters, which I'm carefully making sure they're in range of that one spot where he can jump or drop some troops. Sure, I might lose my Chaos Lord or whatever, but I know next turn I've got a space behind them or whatever, or within my ranks, where Mortarion can drop down, be in range to fly in and sweep them up and destroy them, and destroy one of these units. Okay. Another example is when I played against Tyranids, and I think it was Kraken they were running, the Hive fleet, and I left one of my flanks slightly on an objective, so just holding it, but well out of charge range for a normal unit, pretty much, of Gene Stealers, and I acted like I didn't know what they could do, knowing full well that they get to double move and charge and advance and all that good stuff, so they'll be in combat. But knowing that my lovely little Blight Lord Terminators are in space, and if they do that, there will be a space behind them where I can drop them down with my Plague Spitters or whatever and spray them down. I've also got stratagems to toughen up that flank to take that charge, the Disgusting Resilience increase, the Plague Surgeon. I can, if I can get away with it. If you don't want to overdo one flank, because then you'll put them off from charging you there, but you can put the Foul Blightspawn there so you're striking first. Things like that. But the end result was his big blob of Gene Stealers charged in, killed a bunch of Marines because they're pretty good at that, Plague Marines, but some did survive because they're tough as nails and they're toughness 5, for example. And then my Blight Lord Terminates dropped down and shot them to death, sprayed them to death, and I dropped stratagems where I'd like Virulent Rounds and the one where you can like become Rapid Fire 3 and stuff like that. And it went really well, and he lost the whole squad because of that one charge. Because I didn't know he could do that, even though I did. And I even made the point of like thinking, they should be safe there, like under my breath and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just mind games. That's all it is. But don't use this on your friends, okay? I mean, you can try the first two, but the ignorance one, save that for tournaments, okay? But this only works if you know other factions, of course, which I cannot recommend you doing enough. I know what factions can do. If I come against Necrons, I know what they can do. If I come against Tyranids, I know what they can do, so on and so forth. Obviously, you don't have to be a master at that faction, but you need to know what it's like to be on the receiving end of that faction. Anyway, that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about in this video, should I say. Okay, if you have tried any of these tactics, mind games, or have used any that I have not mentioned, do let me know in the comment section down below, because I'd love to hear what you're doing. And if you want to talk about it more, do join my Discord channel, especially if you're a competitive gamer or like going to events and stuff like that, because I'm starting to try and get a almost like podcast going out where we talk about 40k, competitive games we've had, non-competitive or good combos, things like that. If you're interested in any of that stuff or just general chitter chatter, do jump in. Links in the description down below. If you like the video, do hit the like button so I know people like these kind of tactic videos, and if you're feeling especially saintly today, do consider subscribing. But even if you don't do either of those things, I still hope you have an absolutely fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.